Welcome to today's explainer. Man, get ready because we are decoding a truly mind-bending blueprint today. We're looking at this highly esoteric, incredibly detailed channeled reading given by an intuitive named Athena Starseed to the filmmaker Michael Perlin. And honestly, it's like a literal cosmic script that blends deep spiritual awakening with the art of cinema. To really set the stage for this, we have to ask ourselves, what happens when a creative mind actually receives a message from the stars? It's a pretty wild question, right? As we decode all this source material, we're going to follow a highly cinematic journey, one that literally tasks a human creator with nothing less than shifting global consciousness itself. Okay, let's dive into this. The crazy thing is, this journey doesn't actually start out in the cosmos. It starts in a very grounded, honestly, kind of challenging place, which is human struggle. The source explicitly states that to incarnate into the flesh, you have to experience the slings and arrows of humanness. Things like divorce, disease, loss. But this isn't just some random suffering. It's actually a deliberate catalyst designed to literally crack open mortal consciousness. So that brings us to part one of the reading, the human initiation, and it's all completely by design. Athena uses this brilliant metaphor here, basically describing the human ego as an egg. And this human egg absolutely must crack. Why? Well, so the divine plan can unfold from the inside out. I mean, think about it. As long as your shell is completely intact, you're isolated in there. But when the messy struggles of life finally crack you open, well, that is exactly what allows your infinite light to finally spill out into the wider world. Which brings us to the real core conflict of this whole reading: duality versus singularity. You see, the everyday earthly experience is totally rooted in duality. It creates this constant separation, like us versus them, which ultimately just leads to suffering. The divine goal laid out from Michael, though, is singularity. It's the state of unconditional love where absolutely everything is recognized as one single, interconnected being. The source material even redefines the very word we use for ourselves, breaking human down into human. And according to the text, hu actually means God. So becoming a true human is about that profound moment when you finally turn around, face yourself, and realize that the divine and the mortal have literally merged into one. All right, moving on to part two, tuning the cosmic instrument and finding that universal alignment. To actually reach this state, Athena offers a really striking metaphor. When you feel separated, you're kind of like a boat floating on the water of life, right? Just sort of navigating the waves. But true cosmic tuning means eliminating that separation altogether. You don't ride the water, you become the water. You become a fluid droplet in the vast ocean of existence. So how exactly do you tune up? Well, kind of like stringing a guitar, the reading lays out a very specific process. First, you have to cleanse yourself of attachments and triggers, what Athena playfully calls the silly string of our thoughts. Next, you either carefully curate your company or you just sit in the silence of your own cave. And finally, you harmonize with the universe's choir. Doing all this creates a flow state where your creativity harmonizes uniquely with the cosmos, completely bypassing those dull, ego-driven narratives. Now, a really fascinating and honestly highly specific instruction Athena gives here is to completely wipe the concept of trust from the mind. And you might be wondering, why trust? Well, because trust inherently implies duality. It means there is a you and then there is some other that you have to rely on. But in true singularity, there is no other. To truly create from this place, you have to wipe that away and start with a completely empty canvas. That takes us right into part three, the quickening, and the art of letting go. The reading defines the quickening as this highly accelerated process. It is literally the act of allowing more light into your being. And as this happens, the source describes the DNA expanding and the physical body spinning into these much higher vibrations. It paints this incredibly vivid picture of a body shedding all its heavy human density until the very cells are just twinkling with light. To help visualize this, Athena places Michael in what she calls a golden elevator. The quickening takes you up, sure, but you can only rise if you drop your luggage. You literally have to toss out heavy human files like doubt and shame, deliberately delete old karmic contracts, and totally shift your perception until you realize that all is God. If you hold on to those heavy human grievances, that elevator is simply not leaving the ground floor. And as you let go of all that baggage, you start to realize the truth behind this deeply poetic phrase from the reading: every maze is a labyrinth on the inside. Think about that. A maze is designed to confuse you, right?
filled with dead ends and external struggles. But a labyrinth only has one path, and it leads you directly to the center. Letting go essentially transforms all that external, confusing chaos into a highly purposeful, internal return to source.
All right, let's look at part 4, where we shift the focus to film as a divine medium. The reading states that Michael's main gift is film, which is meant to be channeled directly through his third eye. But here's the cool part. He isn't just limited to making esoteric documentaries. Athena actually notes he'll broadcast on 11 different bandwidths. We're talking everything from science fiction and ancient civilizations all the way to romantic comedies. It's a pretty profound strategy when you think about it, using popular, everyday genres as a sort of Trojan horse to reach the masses and gently raise civilization from duality back to singularity.
So a really crucial point here is how this creation process actually begins. Athena tells him he must paint the Michelangelo of his own Sistine Chapel, inside the dome of his own skull. Basically, he has to climb a tiny ladder in his mind, reach up into infinity, paint the vision entirely internally first, and only then broadcast it outward through his films. True cinematic creation in this sense is an inside job.
To succeed at this, he has to avoid what the reading calls the puddles of forgetfulness. Instead of wallowing in typical human tendencies like depression and victimization, he's tasked with using focused light. Athena reminds him that there are 8 billion golden orbs, 8 billion souls on Earth. His job is to use his films to focus light directly into the imagination of those masses. During the session, Athena actually pauses and explicitly tells Michael he needs to write this exact phrase down. Every place is here. Everyone is you. Every time is now. It is the absolute core teaching of the whole reading. If he's going to create films that genuinely change the world, he has to operate from the absolute knowing that space, time, and separation are complete illusions. Which brings us to part 5, the future civilization. It's all about shaping tomorrow. The reading projects this truly stunning vision of a future Earth that is directly influenced by these elevated films. It describes these amazing eco-friendly civilizations living in total sustainability and harmony. It envisions Earth, or Gaia, rising to a level higher than she has ever seen before. And beautifully, it describes humanity becoming like a Venetian lantern of love, where we reach out and connect not just with each other, but eventually with other planets and star systems in a golden sea of remembrance. But of course, building this new world requires laying down our old ways, especially greed. The reading states, circulation creates materialization. Fear is a hold. Athena explains that resources are meant to flow freely. Think about it. Water droplets don't argue over space as they flow over rocks, right? Humanity has to realize there is always enough, and that holding onto things out of fear is exactly what halts the natural flow of abundance. Ultimately, the whole goal of Michael's films is to project these new realities so powerfully into the imaginations of billions that people just naturally accept their divine nature. When that happens, society will live in continuous, effortless harmony. The source beautifully summarizes this future state as a society harmonizing like a piece of music that just keeps getting better. No forced effort, just this natural, beautiful resonance. And that brings us to the end of our explainer today, but I want to leave you with a direct challenge that Athena posed right there in the reading. If you accept the idea that you are a divine creator, that you possess a literal spark of the divine, what is the very first reality you will project? Seriously, think carefully about what you're broadcasting from your own mind today. Thanks so much for joining me on this incredible journey, and I'll catch you next time.